For about as long as I've been into motorcycling, I have really craved one tool, and that's a bike lift. I'd be lying if I said I haven't spent a lot of time the past few years fantasizing about different ways to get that set up. And of course, I wanted a full lift table, but I even gave some thought about getting one of those simple jacks, about $100. I could hold the bike up. But the layout of my bike would have made this pretty unstable, and I really wouldn't have felt safe around the kids. I would have had to make a bracket. It wouldn't have been good. Anyway, you also know that Harbor Freight sells a table for about $400. That's not a bad deal, but of course, my hobby is a fairly expensive one as it is, and I just couldn't really justify spending that much money. The wife and kids to support. So, enter OfferUp, and Craigslist too, but I found success this time through OfferUp, which is the first time OfferUp has paid off. But anyway, after a few months of checking the lists every day and missing out on a few deals, I finally found this lift that I thought would turn out pretty good. So I made an appointment to go down and see it, and it turned out to be acceptable. The table itself was in pretty bad shape when I got it. The guy I got it from was a body shop owner, specifically motorcycle body shop owner. So the table was just coated in guck. Some of that guck was paint, or a lot of that guck was paint, so a lot of it was pretty hard dried on. So it would take a lot to get this table nice and clean. But the price was right. I only ended up paying, I think it was $80 or $90 for the table, and had the guy help me load it up, and I drove it home in my wife's van and got home and had to deal with unloading it. Okay, we got to get that big piece of junk out of there. Special thanks to the cat and the dog for being so helpful while we were trying to get this done. Okay, so today, I should say this weekend's project has been to continue getting the garage cleaned up again, which is funny because I know I've done this at least 2 or 3 other times as I've been logging what I've been doing with this project, but especially when you have 4 kids, limited space like I do, it really can get away from you. But today I'm going to focus on getting this table spruced up, and I got some kind of fun stuff about it. So I don't know if I've mentioned it before. I bought this about a week ago. It's a lift table, and I know it looks a lot like the Harbor Freight one. But when I bought it, the guy said, "Oh no, it's not Harbor Freight. It's a different brand." So I didn't know what it was, and I gotta say it was completely caked in mud. I'll show you here in a minute how bad it was, and then how much it's improved. But when I got it, it was just filthy. So about a year or two ago, it'd been about a year ago, when I bought this bike, one of the things I've been wanting to get is one of these lift tables. I really wish I had been able to get this while I was doing the heavy work on the project, but, money, whatnot. While I was doing that, I saw I think it was actually on Craigslist, I saw one of these tables listed. And the one I saw listed was a Grazia table built in Bologna, Italy. And I thought that was cool as heck because this bike, of course, was built in Bologna, so it would have been neat to have a lift table that was built. It was missing its bottle jack. The guy had listed for like $50 or something ridiculous. It's kind of a steal, and I have a lot that impulse often. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, where I want to get something and rebuild it and refresh it. That's what the whole thing with this bike has been, right? But I let it pass, and I've regretted it for, the year or so. Anyway, I got this home. I think you know where this is going. I cleaned this off. I've been using brake cleaner and engine degreaser just to get the crud off. And I found the data plate, and it's a Grazia table built in Bologna, Italy. So I was stoked. And this one, I paid $80 for it, and it's in glorious condition. It's clean. it's fresh, or excuse me, it's not clean and fresh, but it's in good mechanical condition, and it's going to be a great thing. I know it looks like I said, it looks like the Harbor Freight. Apparently, the Harbor Freight lift that you can get, that's, you know, sometimes it's like $300. It's usually around $500. It's patterned after this, and so this is like the original, and then the Harbor Freight thing is kind of a clone of that. You know, they do that with a lot of their stuff. So anyway, yeah, so this is an original. It's kind of cool. It's, so I got a lot to do with it. First thing I want to do today is degrease it. I'll probably film a lot more because there's a lot more to show that's going on. And then I need to set up this I just got from Lowe's. It's just a safety bar. It's just a solid rod. Because the only thing it was really missing, excuse me, not the only thing. One of the key things that was missing is the safety bar that goes through, that makes it so that the table's not, you know, if the bottle jack fails, it doesn't go boom. So I'm going to get this spruced up. I'm going to cut this with my cut-off wheel, and then I've got a spacer that I'll just hammer down, maybe JB weld into place, and then that will serve as the stop, so that when I insert it, it stops in the hole and it doesn't slide all the way through. I got some paint to paint it up, and I'm flirting with the idea of removing the top layer off of this. The guy who owned it before me had a body shop. He did a lot of painting, so there's just crud all over it. It's in filthy condition on the top. You cannot get it clean. Luckily, as I've lifted it up and I've been cleaning the bottom, it looks really good. It's like, it was black when I got it, and now underneath it's clean. What else? Oh, I'm also been working on this toolbox, but I think I reported previously that I got this extra toolbox, and it's garbage, so I'm going to put that back up on OfferUp and hopefully get another toolbox. Maybe today. I got a lead on one. But yeah, so I'm going to get started with this, and I'll just post some periodic updates throughout the day.
Hi, YouTubers. Today, Daddy's cleaning
They can't hear you right now, Bear.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk. It's just this video. Well, you can talk about what Daddy's doing.
Well, Daddy's cleaning up the left table.
Make sure you figure out where the camera's pointing, buddy. Guys, what did Daddy say he was doing? Cleaning, right? And I was organizing tools?
Yeah.
Did you guys take out all those Allen keys? Yep. I appreciate that so much.
Let's put them back now.
So this is what it looks like underneath now. But mind you, this is after a bit of scrubbing I did yesterday. You can, just to get a sense, I've left a few patches, and I'm still cleaning. I actually have some extra heavy degreaser that I'm going to use. You see this here, how it's just, you can't even see the paint. The whole thing, from one end to the other, looked like that, with some exceptions. Like this is about what its color was. This was a bit darker, there was more dirt, but you could kind of see the paint. But like certain sections of like this lower bar, this bar right here was like that, the bottle jack, the whole thing was, I mean, like you could not see the paint. This needed a ton of scrubbing, so you can see how bad it is here. I wasn't even sure, no joke, if there was paint underneath this or not, because this crap is so thick. So, yeah, so first, to start out with, I'm going to go ahead and clean it up. And yeah, that's going to be that might be all day today, but I do want to get the safety bar set. Oh, one other thing, there's a critical item missing. That end is the end that you would roll the bike up on, and there's no ramp. And when the bike, it sits about yay high off the ground, just to give you a sense, when it's collapsed. And so I'm going to have to build a ramp or something. I might do it out of wood, I might do it out of metal, but yeah, that's going to take a lot of effort. But for now, I just want to get this thing clean. At least it stopped smelling like stale cigarettes. So, okay, we've sprayed it with degreaser. Let that soak for a bit. I'm going to start working on the safety bar. You can see just the spray of the degreaser already helped a little bit. I got a few spots I'll go ahead and touch up. Okay, so I've used my cutoff wheel and I've made a breaker bar. Right now the table is just kind of breaker bar. Not a breaker bar, a safety bar. Right now the table's still got some spray on it that I'm just letting soak. I'm about to hose it off again so that I can try to knock off some more of the crud. Especially this stuff down here, it's really bad. But yeah, moving right along. Okay, so here's what I did. I got the bar cut off, added a spacer that had to be slammed on there. It's not going anywhere, so I don't need to like weld it or anything, and set it up so it's got an inch on the side. It sits when it's on the table. The spacer keeps it from sliding. Right there has an inch hang over there, and yeah, it'll work out pretty good. So I'm gonna paint it up and finish it. Okay, so I started stripping the top portion of the table because it was just really nasty, and something I wanted to do anyway. So I got some stuff running, or I got some stripper. I've already done one scraping, but you can see here how it was doing finishing. So I'm going to try to get as much of that off as possible, and then just put some primer to seal it up. It doesn't need to be perfect, just better than it is. So once I got the table stripped, the next thing I had to do was, well, start stripping some of the foot pedals and painting that breaker bar. Gosh darn it, I said breaker bar again all these weeks later. The safety bar. So I ended up using my angle grinder with a flap disc, and that actually did most of the work. The paint stripper only worked so well, but boy, did that flap disc, it just cut right through everything. You can see the work I did here on the foot pedal where it's just bare metal. It looks great. That flap disc is a great tool. So if you're ever doing something like this where you just got heavy metal to freshen up and recoat, the flap disc is the way to do it. And yeah, eventually I got it all painted. I got it primed and then painted a nice red. I used Troy built red. One thing I did, and you'll obviously see it if you're paying attention, is that I didn't paint the lower levels. I'm not going for a perfect restoration. I know I've said that on the bike, and I mean it here. I just don't have the time, money, or energy to go through all that. Maybe someday. I actually really like this table, and the project's turned out pretty good. So the last thing I did was I spruced up the panel that can be lifted away so that you can work on the wheel. Actually, I ended up having my kids sign it. And then I got to work on the last bit. So as I alluded to earlier in the video, the last piece of the puzzle to get this thing complete was to put a ramp on the end. Out of the factory, this thing would have come with this kind of hanging ramp. If you've ever seen the Harbor Freight ones, it's the same kind of design. And I went through a lot of different ideas on how to do this, but one of the things I knew was I really didn't want to do a wood one. I really wanted to do something out of metal so that it would have all more or less meshed. It's a metal table, steel table. I didn't want to have some cheap plywood 2x4, thing. I wanted something that looked professional. And then getting to talk to some other people, I thought about riveting because I had riveting experience. I mean, riveting is pretty easy. But really the best way to do it would have been to weld. And, that's great and all, but there was one little problem in that I didn't know how to weld. So I got to talking to my buddy one night, and I was telling him about the problem I was having. And, I was a little nervous of the idea of trying to break into a whole nother thing to learn about. And he said to me, these welding is really kind of like using a big, very, very hot glue gun. Exceptionally hot glue gun. He said as long as you use the right safety equipment, though, that's kind of the basic concept, at least when you're using MIG welding. And so I spent a couple weeks, like 2 weeks, looking up stuff online, reading all I could about it. And my father-in-law had a MIG welder in his garage that I was able to borrow. And after a couple trial pieces, I kind of taught myself how to do some, real basic welding. I'm not really good at it, but I got myself a nice little project out of it. And yeah. So I once I kind of figured out how the welding stuff would work out, I bought a couple pieces of angled iron and sketched out a design that I thought would hold up the bike as best as it could, and stuck it all together. And I think it turned out pretty darn good. I'm actually pretty proud of it, especially once it got painted up. It looks. I'm not going to go out and say it looks professional, but it looks the part. Unless you're really paying attention, I don't think you'd guess that the ramp I built didn't come with the table, and that's what I was going for. The table's not in perfect shape either, so it all kind of flows together. And I'm pretty proud of the project. It was a neat thing.
Was meant to be some kind of cryptic response, but that's the best she can do. She's trying to be in a...
And voila, you can see what the finished shape of the project looks like there. Then I got it all painted up, primered with the same stuff, same coat as the ramp, and it looks really good. Looks really solid. So yeah, turned out good. Okay, everyone. So the last step to get this thing working, the table here, is to get the wheel clamp all set up. Now, with the table as it originally came, I had this older wheel clamp. I think it's the stock one, but as you can see, it's pretty janky. I had half a mind to just try to clean this thing up, but boy, does it seem like a lot of work. And it has a shortcoming in that it doesn't have a like a block for the front of the wheel, right? The idea is it's going to pinch the wheel, and you can see it only kind of just keeps the wheel from going laterally. It's not going to let the wheel, there's nothing stopping the wheel sliding forward. And if your straps are tied down to the table, say the wheel sits here and you have your straps, even a little off, there's going to be forward and back motion. And so I didn't want to replace that. So obviously in the frame there, that's what I'm going to replace it with. That's a Harbor Freight wheel chock for 2 options. And now I'm kind of stuck with a problem. It does have holes, and actually the holes, interestingly enough, align with the holes already in the table. The problem is the holes in the table, as you can kind of see just how this thing is sitting, is much further apart. And I've been looking at how it mounts up, and if I were to drill holes into the table to line them with the holes in the chalk there, it would almost certainly conflict with the mechanism underneath the table. In fact, you can kind of see it all would be about the same width. So, I'm going to jury rig. So, not jury rig, but I'm going to do another welding project. There's the ramp there that I came up with. So, obviously, I'm already a little bit more comfortable with welding and metal fab. And I keep showing these metal strips. I know I kind of gave away the idea before I did anything, but I went and bought these metal strips. They are 1/4 inch, and the gap there is a 1/2 inch. The gap there is a 1/2 inch. So I'll show you what I'm going to plan here in just a minute. But this is the plan. Probably not get done today, but I'll get some of it done. I've got to go take my kids to the movies. But anyway. Okay, got a little behind in filming. Basically just had a long day today and didn't feel like setting up the camera. I've only been working for about 20 minutes, but I got all the holes drilled and looks like lined up thanks to my handy dandy drill press that I just bought, Harbor Freight, for $60. Not a bad deal. I mean, it's kind of a little rickety, but worked good. Holes look like they all line up, so I'm going to try to bolt this son of a bitch down. We did it. It's on there really good. It is not going anywhere. We got a good wheel chock. And I preserved the functionality to be able to go forward and back. I'll keep it at the middle setting for now, but we can shift the weight balance around it too. Time to clean off the table. I've been using it as a table, and maybe we'll get a test run in.